Blessed is he who reads aloud the words of the prophecy, and blessed are those who hear and who keep what is written therein, for the time is near. Revelation 1:3. So let's dive in and trust the Lord that he will give you wisdom and understanding as we go verse by verse through the book of Revelation. Always remember Acts 17:11, in that they received the word with all readiness of mind and searched the scriptures daily whether these things were so.
Smyrna, the persecuted church. Revelation 2, verse 8. And to the angel of the church of Smyrna write, the first and the last, who was dead and has come to life, says this. Today Smyrna is called Izmir, and it's the third largest city in Turkey. Smyrna has an excellent harbor and exports tobacco, grapes, figs, cotton, olives, and olive oil. Smyrna was inhabited by the Asiatic Leleges until about 3000 BC. After that, according to Herodotus, the area fell into the hands of the Ionians from Colophon, thus beginning Smyrna's most glorious phase in history. During this period, the poet Homer was born, lived, and died in Smyrna. 3 centuries of greatness ended with the attacks of the Lydians. In the 4th century, on order from Alexander the Great, Smyrna was built into a strong, well-planned city, the most beautiful in Ionia. It became known as the Flower of Ionia, and prospered into one of the greatest cities of that time. Smyrna came under the control of the Romans in 27 BC, and it became known as the most beautiful city in the world. Over the years, Smyrna was demolished by several earthquakes and rebuilt, but never attained its former glory. Ancient Smyrna was known for its many temples and splendid buildings. It became the center of pagan worship, with the temples of Zeus, Apollo, Aphrodite, Aesculapius, Cybele, Poseidon, and Demeter. The name Smyrna comes from the Greek word Smyrna, from the Hebrew root that is translated myth. Myrrh is a bitter gum and costly perfume which exudes from a certain tree or shrub in Arabia and Ethiopia, or is obtained by incisions made in the bark. As an antiseptic, it was used for embalming. It was also an ingredient in perfume, see Psalm 45:8, prominent in Song of Solomon, etc. It was also an ingredient in holy anointing oil for priests, as in Exodus 30:23, and the purification of women, see Esther 2, verse 12. It was used in embalming, such as John 19:39, and was a gift of the Magi at Christ's birth, Matthew 2, verse 11. Gold equals royalty. Frankincense equals deity and priesthood. Myrrh equals suffering and death. In the second coming, gold and frankincense are offered, but no myrrh, see Isaiah 60, verse 6, since his death is now behind him, but it was offered to Christ at the cross, Mark 15:23. The body of Jesus was embalmed by Joseph and Nicodemus, John 19, verses 39 and 40. Myrrh yields fragrance by being crushed. Note the death theme through this letter. The Church of Smyrna went through tremendous suffering and persecution from the Roman government. It was estimated that 6 million Christians were martyred during this period of time. Some of them were fed to the lions, stretched on the racks, crucified by the hundreds as the Roman emperors at various periods sought to stamp out Christianity. The pastor of the church at Smyrna was a man named Polycarp, the last man personally discipled by John. At 86 years of age, amidst one of the numerous waves of persecution, Polycarp was ordered to burn incense at the altar of Caesar. "How can I deny him who has been faithful to me these 86 years?" he asked. Consequently, he was sentenced to burn at the stake. When the fire failed to come near him, however, a frustrated guard pierced Polycarp's shoulder with his sword, inadvertently drawing blood which put out the flame. At times, the only substance powerful enough to extinguish the fire of persecution was the blood of the saints. So to this church that was going to experience much tremendous suffering and persecution, the message of Jesus is one of a different nature. It is a message of comfort, a message of hope. Revelation 2 verse 9. I know your tribulation and your poverty, but you are rich, and the blasphemy by those who say they are Jews and are not, but a synagogue of Satan. Commendation. I know your works and tribulation. This period for the church was a time of oppression, affliction, and distress. I know your works. Nothing is hidden from me. I know your poverty and how you were persecuted through confiscation. I know your persecution by these religious men that claimed to be Jews but were not. In the midst of much affliction, it is easy to think that God has forgotten all about you. But I know I've been there, done that, says Jesus. Revelation 2 verse 10. Do not fear what you are about to suffer. Behold, the devil is about to cast some of you into prison, so that you will be tested, and you will have tribulation for 10 days. Be faithful unto death, and I will give you the crown of life. Do not fear what you are about to suffer. Diseases brought back from the Parthian Wars devastated much of Rome. Inundation from the Tiber put much of the grain storehouses under water. Famine and pestilence followed. The Christians were a convenient scapegoat, and Christianity became a crime. In the years AD 100 through AD 313, there were 10 Roman emperors who correspond to the 10 days spoken of here. They launched such massive attacks against the believers that between 5 and 7 million Christians were killed during their rule. The 10 days included Nero from 54 to 68, during which time Paul was beheaded and Peter was crucified upside down. Domitian from 95 to 96, during whose reign John was exiled. Trajan from 104 to 117, during whose reign Ignatius was burned at the stake. Marcus Aurelius from 161 to 180, at which time Polycarp was martyred. Septimus Severus from 200 to 211, he killed Irenaeus. Maximinus, 235 to 237, he killed Ursula and Hippolytus. Decius, 249 to 251, Valerian, 257 to 260, Aurelian, 270 to 275, and then Diocletian, 303 to 313. He was the worst of all. 10 total, 250 years. In Fox's Book of Martyrs, it said 5 million believers died for Christ during this period. Revelation 2 verse 11, He who has an ear, let him hear what the Spirit says to the churches. He who overcomes will not be hurt by the second death. Note, there is no criticism. This is a promise for overcomers. In the context, for those who will overcome the threat and fact of violence from Satan, they will never be hurt by the second death, which is hell, the lake of fire. See Revelation 20:14 and 21:8. Death is conquered for these overcomers. What is the second death? At the end of the millennium, the unbeliever will be resurrected to stand before the Lord at the great white throne judgment. There, his failure to believe on the Lord and his refusal to accept God's payment for his sin will condemn him to outer darkness. Revelation 26. But for those who, like the church at Smyrna, stay true, the second death will have no effect.